Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. The subject today will be brain, and the title of the webinar is "The Brain Could Be Your Savior, but you also could be your savior." The most important point of this webinar, what got me to connect many dots, which I'll explain later, was the fact that there is a lot of scientific research that actually shows that when we are under stress, which means acute stress, chronic stress, when people have emotional stress, whether acute or chronic, it actually creates wiring in the brain. So any emotional trauma, as well as physical trauma, will create changes in the brain and cause rewiring of brain cells, the neuron. Actually, it will change the DNA to create new wiring that will help your body respond to the stress. The problem is that stress, when it's acute and we get over it, it's fine. But if our brain changes its cells to act chronically to stress, then the results are our body eventually cannot function optimally. And the reason is that during stress, you direct certain information, energy, and function to certain areas of the body, and you take it away from other areas. If this is temporary, it's no problem. However, if it is chronic, then we stop getting enough regulation and balance in our body that nervous system is responsible for, because you may know that the autonomic nervous system, also called automatic nervous system, have two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. One creates hyperactivity, the other one slows activity, and there is a balance. In addition to that, the nervous system monitors your body and gives information to the lower brain, the automatic brain. And then according to what's going on, it sends nerves that stimulate the appropriate areas to regulate the function and to correct things that needs correction. When that doesn't happen properly, then your body doesn't work in harmony. And since your body destroys itself and builds itself, and not do it optimally, and then regeneration and disease over a long time happens. What they found out that the limbic system, which you will see here, and you can just look it up online today, you can get beautiful information online on everything, which includes the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and so forth. It's actually a system, part of a nervous system that handles everything that happens automatically, responds to emotions, to stress, and so forth, and regulate it. So what happens is that when this limbic system is wired for stress response, it will create pathways that we under chronic stress. So what happens, it could be very acute, but most times the stress response is very, very subtle. So you have, for example, muscle tension because you respond to everything in your environment stressfully without most time realizing it, and I'll get into the reasons why later. And this tension, for example, creates muscle tension. So when you have muscle tension, the muscles are not balanced in your back, for example, it affects the spine, the pressure of the spine create back pain, spinal problems, disc protrusion, the disc, and so on, headaches and so on. However, the muscle is just a common example. But you have to realize when your brain is under chronically stress response, other areas of your body wouldn't get the regulation and the proper attention, so to speak, from the nervous system in a balanced form. And then these areas start to suffer. So your body has many ways to make up for damage energetically through the nervous system and other systems. However, eventually your body cannot take it anymore and eventually develop illness. So what you have to realize that every health problem that you have, acute, but all chronics for illnesses that we develop, whether it's cancer, arthritis, autoimmune disease, has to do with stress, which could have happened since we were born and even in utero during the pregnancy of your mother, if she was under stress. And we all under chronic stress, as you will see. Sometimes you don't even have control of that, but or it's automatic without realizing, which we'll see why. So after telling you these facts, and I'll give you the reference, you can look it yourself. those of you that haven't have a chance, didn't get my emails, or didn't have a chance to see the videos of Dr. Doge and Dr. Amen, I highly recommend that you do, because you actually see the description of all the research. I'll tell you my story, which is interesting because when I become aware and more about this research of wiring of the limbic system, what I realized was it connected the dot for me, because my story is obviously I'm what we call conventional MD, like allopathic MD. That was my original training, but I started my career as a pediatrician, and what I noticed when I had several cases of kids that nobody could figure out what's going on, why they sick, they went to doctors and hospitals and did tests, and nobody could figure out why they're sick. I just have a conversation with the family, found they had some conflict at home, helped them resolve the conflict, and the child was healed overnight. So that was new to me because it's not something I learned in medical school. Took a hypnosis course in New Orleans with a nurse anesthetist, and he was doing really amazing things. He was doing minor surgery under hypnosis, no local anesthesia, even major surgery, C-section. We saw cases of C-section without any anesthesia, and so forth. I wasn't attracted to this per se, even though I ended using it when I worked later in the emergency room on children. So I was attracted to visualization and imagery. Those of you that don't know what it is, it's just basically, it's like a meditation and you visualize yourself healing and so forth. So I took the idea and I started using it in my practice. And I noticed that, I had amazing cases that I didn't expect as a doctor. For example, I had a girl, 16 years old, with severe asthma that gets worse and worse. I have to see her in the hospital, emergency room, 2 or 3 nights every week. So I made her a tape, a relaxation healing visualization tape, which is still available today. And within she never showed up in the emergency room again. Within 3 months, she was off medication. She was fine. So I used them with very good results whenever I felt appropriate, just tool in my practice. Then I moved and started doing emergency medicine. I let go of pediatrics, and I was working in Jacksonville, and a doctor was referred to me by a common friend that were aware of my work, and he was given 3 weeks to leave. The diagnosis terminal prostate cancer, and they gave him no hope. Basically, the prognosis for 3 weeks, he was suffering. So he didn't believe in anything but conventional medicine, but when they give you 3 weeks to live, you have nothing to lose. So I met with him. I made him tape, visualization tape. He started listening 3 times a day. That's all he did. And within 3 weeks, back to work, and he went in total remission. I was shocked because I did not expect that. So my first case was cancer. I was shocked, and he obviously was very happy. So I decided to take it further and started to work with visualization with group people, and I started to study, learn about the effect of body-mind, how your mind affects your body, and so forth. And it's it's a huge field of information. It used to be called psychoneuroimmunology, the connection with the mind, body, and so forth. You won't hear much in the mainstream, and the reason that we talk a little bit later. Later on, I started also to teach consciousness training of different kinds, including avatar and so forth. And what I noticed in my work with probably thousands of people all over the world, that when people made a commitment or took a training where we used to work 8 hours a day for a week or 10 days, I've seen amazing cases of healing, not only chronic like cancer, but also emotional, mental, amazing healing and shifts of people, but also even acute trauma was healed within minutes or seconds. It was a really amazing time. So in 1989, I started to practice holistic medicine like I do today. However, I always encourage my patients to work on that level, emotional, mental, spiritual, and so forth, changing belief and all this good stuff. And I noticed over the years that people, took seriously, including people that didn't believe or didn't expect that it'll help them. They did the tools that I gave them, and they got well much faster, or got well when nobody really connected, like people that were sent to hospice and die, and they actually went into total remission. And the main reason, of course, we did other things, IV vitamins, all this good stuff, holistically for cancer, which is helpful, but There's no question in my mind when I sort out my patient, those that did best, did most dramatic result, people that use the tools I give every patient if they're choosing to. So what I realized from my work, and I wrote a book about it, called Unconditional Healing, that the main problems humanity and for us individually is that we are indoctrinated from the moment we're born, basically, into the belief system of victim. Actually, we started to be affected in our motherhood is our mother is stressed or has a hard time emotionally and so forth. And the reason is that mothers, like all of us and everybody else in this society, except for very rare exception, believe that the victim. What does mean victim belief? Victim belief system means that you're mostly subconsciously believe that you have no control of your life. So whatever happens, happens by accident. If you from young age, your belief system, which we don't even realize, is automatically assumed that you're a victim. Now, what this does to the brain is very simple. What happens when you believe that you're a victim? Obviously, to one degree or another, consciously and subconsciously, you don't really believe that you have control of your life, and happiness doesn't come from you. So paradigm will be that you victimize somebody else before they victimize you, because it's the survival of the fittest. That's the only way to go. And what happened is that these obviously create very unpleasant emotions, and belief create reality, and the victim belief system will create a lot of problems. Now, as far as the brain is concerned, obviously when you're unhappy, when you're stressed, brain will be wired for stress. And what you have to realize that everything that happens in your life that is unhappy, for example, your parents divorce, or whatever happened that was traumatic, or your parents mistreated you, or didn't let you be yourself by projecting what they want for your highest good, but it's not you, because another aspect of victim belief system that you're not source for your reality, and you're really not allowed to be yourself. So when you're not allowed to be yourself, you always play the game for somebody else. So you get in a relationship which is not the best for you, or make a decision out of fear. Again, when you believe that you're victim, even is stressed and your brain is stressed, and the limbic system learns slowly but surely to act out of stress. In summary, belief system is a belief system that create only stress, whether you realize it or not. And let's give you an example. One of the training I did years ago, people had to write 3 beliefs about money, family, health, and so forth. So they make a long list. And even though most beliefs seem to be positive, if you really look under the belief, what promoted it was the fact that it's based on fear and on victim rather than being what we call source. So what happened is that when your brain limbic system is rewired from stress, I already explained the effect on your body physically, but when you're under stress or you on fear, whether it's conscious or not conscious, you actually attract to your life circumstances and people that will victimize you. So the victim belief system, from practical point of view, what it'll do, it will obviously affect your body physically and eventually contribute to illness, but it also attract victimhood to your life, and in many, many ways. And since most people believe that to be on top, they have to victimize somebody else, there's no lack of victimization. So you just attract it. I give you just an example if it's not clear. If you're really, really afraid that people are there to get you and the world is bad, and you're afraid of robbers and muggers, you go to the park just to take a little fresh air and sun, and then one of the thieves or robbers just go up there for the same reason, but all of a sudden they look at you and they feel you and say, oh, that's maybe a good day to rob this person, because you attract that. That's like extreme example, but this happens on subtle level all the time. Now, why do we allow people to victimize us? And it could be very subtle, because since you have basic victim belief system, you don't know who you are, so you manipulate others. That's why people create relationships which are codependent and so forth. Not yourself, and you stress, even if you don't realize it, and you're not likely to make decisions which are your highest good. Now, if we didn't have this victim belief system and our parents were not raised in this belief system, they let us be who we are. Each one of us will let each other be who they are. They know their boundaries, they respect each other, and your instinct and your brain will work perfectly. No different than animal. You know that animal that when you love them, when you hate them, when you're angry at them, they pick up everything. We lost that instinct. Of course, they don't have the thinking brain like we have, but our thinking brain, it's a wonderful thing, but it also could be to our detriment, which because of that prevailing belief system, it's mess up our lives. And by having this belief system, we allow very small number of people to profit from that belief system, and then they want us to stay there because they were never free. And we'll get into that in a minute. The reason we don't wake up, even though what I'm telling you may be very logical, is that victim beliefs create victim belief solution. What is victim belief solution? Very simple. Victim belief solutions are creations or organizations or entities that profit from that. For example, since belief system, another factor of belief system, which you can read in my book, belief create filter. And this belief is very strong or very deep, even if it's subconscious, it will prevent you from seeing certain reality which is obvious and logical, and you may subscribe to illogical and even foolish beliefs and harmful beliefs without even being able to see the downside of this belief. So it creates a filter that prevents you from seeing reality. Now, what happened is that, for example, if you believe that you're victim, it's obviously be natural for you and logical, even though you don't realize it consciously and logically, to victimize your body to heal it. So you go to a doctor that cuts and burns you. It's not even logical and unnecessary in most cases, except rare cases. On the other hand, if you know who you are and you don't have this belief system, easier to recognize that you're responsible for your health. You're not the victim. You take responsibility for your body, take care of your body. Just like to get sick. And even if you get sick, there are natural things that are harmless that can prevent or heal most illnesses. And then you need a doctor only in trauma or very rare instances. But instead, we see it as natural to poison and cut our body, where there's simple, harmless solutions in probably 95 to 99% of cases. But we cannot see that because of that filter. I want to go further. For example, we do war to create peace. Totally illogical if you see what war does, and who is profiting from wars. The military industrial system, the bankers that make money on both sides, and so on and so on. And it keeps us in fear and stress. So when we're under fear and stress, we cannot recognize what's going on, and we believe all these things that politicians tell us, which are nonsense. Another example, going back to healthcare system, most doctors, how you have cancer, you have illness, how do they motivate your quotation mark to do what they say? They're scared to death. Oh, you're going to die if you don't do this and this and that. Now, most of them do it, I mean, all of them, I think, doing with good intention. That's what they learn. They totally don't understand how the body works. They didn't learn it in the medical school, at least when I was, and I don't think there's still, maybe a tiny bit, but most of the stuff that they need to know as doctors, they don't know. Or they know how to burn and poison the body. Now, this creates they call victim belief system, that is drug companies and mainstream medicine that has a lot of financial incentive. Now, what happened is that that's true for example, agriculture. We do genetically modified food, and they tell us it's good for us, good for the planet, even though it's proven in all animal study. If you give them long enough genetically modified food, they all die from cancer. We put pesticide, herbicide, which are poison. We destroy the environment, destroy our body. And most people, even if you tell them, they don't listen because they have been totally blinded by this victim belief system, and they cannot see the absurdity of it. Even it's obvious for you, and luckily more and more people are waking up, but the majority is still asleep and cannot see that. So those are just few examples, but if you really get into any entity, whether it's business or it's political or it's even religions, they're all infected with the victim belief system, which actually does more harm than good eventually, and you do right to yourself and the planet if you have this belief system. So really explore it, you'll find out that that's really the problem of humanity. And we inherit from our parents. And this is the reason that children are so innocent, wonderful. When you look at the picture, then we grow and it don't look so innocent and nice and wonderful. The reason is very simple. We start to accumulate the victim belief system. So basically what I realize is that all suffering of humanity has been created by this. So now we know that victim belief system doesn't work, or detrimental, doesn't do us any good whatsoever. It creates suffering, and even if we don't think we suffer, we create suffering to others, we're still responsible, and we're still going to pay the price. For me, it's really important to understand this, the principle, because until you have a deep understanding of that, you really cannot change your life, because the belief system is going to be there. It's in your subconscious mind, and it can create only suffering. Get it to the point where you have no victim belief system, probably be like Jesus or totally sane. And certainly want to work on it. And the good news is that I've seen over the years, it's more simple than you can imagine. And when you do that, not only that you improve, you have better chance to improve your health, you rewire your brain, everything in your life gets better. Because people that do that, they notice not only they heal physically, they actually, the whole quality of life, how they relate to stress, how they relate to problem in their life totally changes and makes the quality of life much, much better. Just also want to mention that your consciousness awareness is not your physical brain or your money you take with you when you pass on. And that's really the purpose of coming here, is to learn to let go of victim belief system. That's one aspect of it. And any problem in your life that you have, whether it's physical or personal or whatever you're going through life that gives you a hard time, all these problems that you have in any area of your life are really have emotional, mental, spiritual or aspect. And if you address them, your chances of healing or speed up the healing or suffer much less are much, much better. In fact, I tell my patients, when you work on that level, which I always encourage people, you will get most leverage toward healing and improving your life. Now, it doesn't mean that you cannot heal yourself even without doing this kind of work. I find out if you do holistic modalities, those of you didn't see my video on my website, drtalmor.com, you really want to watch the Getting Well is Getting Out of the Box, because only victim belief system that hurts us, but a lot of things that we do as a result, exported toxins, heavy metal, Wi-Fi, bad nutrition, which we don't even realize we're doing. So that's another part of it. And for some people, it's enough to do that to heal from specific illness. However, if you work on emotional, mental, spiritual, as whatever you want to call it, doesn't even matter because it's so simple, then you improve yourself on every level. That's really the greatest gift. That's why you come to Earth, I believe, to learn that. So if you understand that, that's probably the best gift you can give to yourself. And nothing really can improve unless you make some changes in your life in that direction. Now, I wanted to say one more thing about victims. This is really, really important. The world is so crazy, and those of us that are aware know that. Why would they push genetically modified food on us, and the government and the universities tell us it's okay, like University of Florida, which is absolutely absurd and proven to be not true. Because what you have to understand that these entities that amass a lot of power and money, they don't want you to get well. If you don't believe me, but they don't want you to heal. They want you to believe that you're a victim. And what the best way to keep you as a victim? To scare you, to stress you. When you're under stress and you believe that you're a victim, that's the best way they can manipulate you and use you. Now, if you don't believe me, I give you one reference. And those of you that still believe that doctors and drug companies are your saviors, go on YouTube and watch the video Big Pharma, spelled PH, Big Pharma. This is really a great video because, we have a lot of whistleblowers from the drug companies that tell what they do. But this guy was the head of Eli Lilly for over 20 years in Sweden. He'll tell you he doesn't call himself criminal, and you just listen what he says, what drug companies do. And the reason is if you're healthy, they won't make money. They lose the power. And so on and so on. So it's really about promoting this belief system. Unfortunately, average person not only is already programmed as a victim, unfortunately, they have so much power that they basically bought out the government. They bought out the media in this country more than in Europe, but actually it's everywhere. Here it's more prominent. The basic thing here is manipulation and lies. They deliberately create fear. And the result is that they find every way they can to make you fearful, to direct your attention to something which is not really that important or secondary. And they keep you where you are. So the average person that in the mainstream media, most of them don't want to listen to you. You know how, if you do, I don't know if all of you know, how wonderful is holistic medicine and how much superior it is in most cases, not all, but most cases. You tell people, you tell your family, it's like talking to the wall. They're totally into the victim belief solution. But I want to make a note here, which is really important. Because what I'm observing, when people find the truth, which is shocking, it's for the average person, which is a good person, it's really hard to believe there's so much evil and bad intention and create so much unnecessary death and suffering in the world. So what is the natural reaction, especially if you program victim solution? To be upset, to be angry, to be stressed. In fact, this can create a reaction of fear, which is that's how we're all wired to be. However, once you realize how your consciousness works and how belief system work, the very simple way that happens, by the way, automatically when you learn the mechanism of what I call rewire your brain or letting go of victim belief system, which is really aspect of the same thing. It's very important, even if you find out about things or entities, whether it's drug companies or conventional doctors doing things that hurting people, don't get upset. The reason they're doing it because people that are victim will need victim solution to suffer. That is sometimes to wake up, which is wonderful. And many people don't wake up, just die sicker and sicker. But I believe we all have eternity to learn. It's no big deal. It's very important to do what Jesus taught and all, many of greater philosophy teach. Rather than being upset, obviously, instead of creating fear and reaction and hate, which most people will react, you actually do two things. First, release all judgment about it. You release all judgment, what they're doing, not something to condone, as far as you're concerned, not good, bad, right, and wrong. And let me explain you why. Because when you criticize these entities or anybody in your life, including yourself, at this point, what you're doing is that first, you're playing God. You don't even know your own circumstances as a child that caused you to be where you are and have all your problems. Sometimes you do, most of it you may not even know. But for others, you don't know what got them there. So you really have not enough information to judge. You leave it to God or somebody else, not you. Because when you're judging them, you're doing two things. First, you're wasting energy. And you creating negative emotions. And when people doing things are not good for them, it's based on their own negative emotion, negative energy. And when you resist what they're doing by judging them negatively, you're basically helping them be where they are. And that could be as simple as true to somebody in your family that has cancer, for example, any so-called serious illness. You're all upset and uptight and fearful because of what they have. And many people push them to do therapy even they don't want to intuitively. And what happens is you put energy into the illness. Instead, you just let go. You not judge. You don't know why. They're responsible for what's happening from a higher level. You just send them love. Release all judgment. And that's true also any condition that you have. If you resist it, you give it power. So if you have any health condition or problem in life of any kind, physical or otherwise, you let go of any judgment. Now, the other aspect, when you do that, you stop making yourself a victim. When you project that other people are victim by criticizing, you're actually strengthening your paradigm of victim. And it happens subconsciously. You don't even realize it because you're not aware. So the best step is to totally let go of judgment. That's one, and you can see it on my website on self-help. There is, I call it self-help project, and you can read it and just do it. So that's really the first step. Now, beyond that, when you get rid of enough victim belief system, or negative belief, which is the same thing, then you send love to all these people. Because the reason these people are bad quotation mark is not experience much love when you have victim belief system. Even when you parents, it's on some level it's conditional and it's with good intention. So they really need love. So love is energy that neutralizes this creation. If enough people, instead of resisting, being upset and all freaked out about what's happening, when they find out what's happening, and it's not hard to be freaked out when you really understand what's going on. You just send them, you forgive them if you need to, if you're still judging them, and then send them love. And when you do that, obviously you can change only yourself. You cannot change anybody else. But when you change yourself, you're literally making the world better. You add little good energy that eventually is going to neutralize. And enough people realize that enough of us just send love to our politicians or whatever we judge as bad there, all the things, the bankers or whoever is responsible for all this, we can actually, and that's been proven scientifically, but I won't get into that, you can change the planet within 24 hours. And what you have to understand that all these bad things out there that you don't do are a reflection of the negativity in you. And your fear, your negative emotions that come from victim feed these people energy. And when you stop feeding them, either these people are so bad will go away or they become sane. That's eventually. It sounds like utopia, but it's inevitable. I don't know how long it'll take. It's already started. So I wanted to be aware of it. Also, I want to be aware of it that be upset with doctors that poison people. People need it because that's what they believe. It's really, from a higher perspective, not good or bad belief, there are consequences. If the consequence is not good, change your belief. Really come from belief. News, there are wonderful, simple way to change that. And by changing that, you're literally restoring your brain, you're rewiring your brain to be happy, to be yourself, and for your body to function better. I just wanted to mention, and if you saw already or you're going to see Dr. Ayman's lecture, he actually shows with PET scan, it's really beautiful, how toxic things, bad nutrition, stress, alcohol, drugs, actually the brain physically. And when people change the way the brain improves, already watched to believe that science is the religion, is the truth. And by the way, science, you have to understand that science is totally, all the universities, almost without any exceptions, are totally manipulated and controlled by these entities that don't want you to know the truth. Check it out. Everything is up today on YouTube and in the internet. We have already a free energy system that free us from any pollution, oil-based energy. We have all the healings that we need for most illnesses. Everything already exists. It's just not allowed. So when we get to a certain, what I call a threshold point, when enough people wake up, it'll be inevitable. It's no different what happened with communism. When communism is going to disappear in 6 months, they'll tell you totally insane. But you get to a certain point, you cannot stop good things and progress. So, I mean, I'm just waiting this to happen, and it will. So you change yourself. That's actually what I've been teaching people for years. You have to use your mind intentionally and deliberately with 100% commitment. Many, many ways to do that. I'll just mention few. In fact, I'll give you enough information you can do your own thing if you wish. And I highly recommend it. And I'll tell you something that I'm doing that I'll make available to everybody for free at this time. To YouTube, look for Dr. Norma George on neuroplasticity. You'll find his lecture, and you have many lectures. This is a very good one. And then you have the talk of Dr. Ayman. The title is Brain Health Tips from Dr. Daniel Ayman, Superhero You. And actually, when you watch, you see watch these two videos, it also shows you why all the things I talk in my lecture, getting well is getting out of the box, the physical things also affect the brain. Not even the limbic, but also your upper brain. But if you see this video, it'll all be clear. So many effective way for help tool. People will need, in extreme cases, professional help. Most people can do it themselves. So you use your judgment, and if you can find a good, perfectly holistic psychologist, that can be very helpful. In extreme cases, they may be needed. There are many healing modalities which you can do yourself, as well as brain training program. Let me just mention one thing that I've been doing now for 4 years, and it's extremely, extremely helpful, and it connects what we're talking about. Nutripuncture is basically similar to acupuncture, but instead of putting needle, you chew on tablets with very small amount of minerals. not small enough to be like homeopathy, but not big enough for you to give you overdose. They have magnesium, copper, and so forth, but they open your body energetically. Now, you use it just like acupuncture in acute and chronic cases. However, it has one modality called sequential nutripunctures. You can take specific traumatic events which really have very, very deep emotional effect on people, even if they don't recognize it. Usually they do, but they may not. Things like sexual abuse, physical trauma, divorce of parents, abandonment, and other things that unfortunately in our imperfect world many people experience. And it actually resolved energetic, specific energetic block were created by that. And I found it out it's extremely helpful, and even more if people do their own work, because it facilitates, it takes a lot of blockage, because sometimes it's not easy. You're so under the influence of this wiring and this suffering that you really have to be very, very strong. And not everybody is, but anybody can if they persist enough. However, this is a modality. I actually have seen it helping in certain situations very quite dramatically people that were years in therapy, which didn't do nearly even close to what this did. And this is actually, of course, you have to see somebody that knows what he's doing. And unfortunately, right now, not too many people. Hopefully, there will be in the future therapies that use it. But it can be very, very helpful in any case, especially if you have very severe trauma, which unfortunately most people have one way or another. So I'm just mentioning it because even though it's not something you do yourself, you can benefit a lot if you have access to it. So it really doesn't matter. There's no one tool that's better than other. If you take any tool, and I'll give you a bunch of them right now, references, you can do any of them and do miracles in your life and rewire your brain. I have two of them free on my website. It's a visualization called Effortless Healing. It's like 9.5 minutes of visualization, and you experience what it means to be in the moment. When you're in the moment, you automatically erase all the past. And the future doesn't exist. You're never going to arrive to the future. You'll always be in the now moment. And the problem is that the way our brain is wired and our belief system is that we have all this stress and fear from the past ingrained and programmed into us, and we project our fear into the future. In the result, we live, I would say, not very well, and some people live in hell. When you follow the visualization, it's self-explanatory. You do this visualization, learn to do it yourself, and be in this feeling space. Nobody prevents you to be in this feeling space when you drive, when you talk. If you do it consistently enough, I tell my patient, do it 10 minutes on the hour, and then learn to do it consistently. There's no reason why you cannot. You can totally heal yourself. Just that one tool. We're all different for many reasons. So what I tell my patient, it doesn't matter which tool you do. Use one or two tools and just do them relentlessly. And if you do them, you'll get there. Now, Self-Help Project is also on my website, and it's self-explanatory. And I already mentioned that you just choose, put the intention consistently. Anybody you judge in your past, in your present, outside of you, like all these entities and politicians, all these good people, you just let go of any judgment. Totally let go. Give it to God. Give it up. Doesn't do any good, as I explained. In my book, Unconditional Healing, part one of the book is, and two are most important because it really gets into more details about the victim paradigm. I realized years ago this was the key. What really helped me to grow up is to realize I'm not a victim. Understand it consciously and deliberately rather than be a victim by default. And that just created a process that basically frees you. First part, explain it. I also want to note that I go beyond that in my videos from YouTube to my YouTube channel. When you open my first page, under the two videos, that one is a must, getting out of the box, there is a click to YouTube, and there is a lecture I gave in a church on creating reality, which expand on the book. Now, the last part of the book have many, many tools. If you just choose one or two of those, it'll work. In fact, over the years, I have people that heal themselves from cancer just doing the exercise in part 3 of my book. So that's another resource that have a bunch of things, and all you need to is one or two or whatever you resonate with you. I also have self-visualization CD, which I mentioned I use for years. Other things that I recommend is work.com is Byron Katie. She's wonderful. And you just have to go to the website. The logical way to let go of your story. What is the victimhood and all the suffering? So you can really shift yourself with this method. Another one I just found recently, somebody called Resilience Academy. His name is Bernstein. And he has another system which may be a little more clearer for some people and more advantageous. It's very similar, but again, it's a way to analyze what's going on and release all this belief system. There is another source which I like, is The Art of Soaring. There's also a sequel, The Power of Luck, which I carry because realization from Russian, it's so simple, it's amazing. All you do is any situation that bothers you, whether it's illness or people that give you a hard time or anything that you can imagine, whenever you think about it, you shift yourself by creating a scenario, funny word, funny scenario. It's really, you have thousands of possibilities. And if you do it consistently, just by you getting your brain for focusing on the half empty, which is always automatic with our victim belief system, to neutral or to half full, because when you're neutral, half full, everything is perfect in the universe. When you do it enough, you have stories people heal themselves from cancer, the greatest enemy becomes the best friend and supporter, all kind of neat stuff. You can easily learn how to get to getting from a cop, whether you're guilty or not, and so forth. It's really neat. And it's simple. And you don't have to understand any philosophy, just do it. Another book I like is The Journey. The idea is that when you experience any negative emotions without judgment, the emotion will go away. So you can actually process all your negative emotions just by learning to experience it without judgment. And actually, the effortless healing you have on the website prepares you for that. But the fact is, if you read the book, the lady had football-sized malignant tumor in the uterus, and she took off 6 weeks before doing surgery to do holistic stuff. And she believes, and I agree, because many years before, that's really what I do in my intensive training, experiencing all the fear, all the stress without judgment, with no attaching any belief or interpretation, was the instrumental thing in healing. Within 6 weeks, you have normal MRI. It disappeared. And I've seen things like that, not exactly like that, but basically similar in my intensive training. So the point is that anybody can do that. It's not difficult. I came up with, because of all this information, especially really suffering for years, they may have more motivation to really take the time. So what I suggest is that to really rewire your brain, there's several options. Probably the most really practical to really get into it and get enough, really be strong enough to continue in your daily life, is to do what we call a boot camp. Their idea basically is to dedicate a few days, like 4 days. Some people may need less, some people need more. It's very individual, depends on the person. And then dedicate an hour a day to use some tools consistently for 6 months. I think that 90% of people will achieve so much healing and improvement, a breakthrough, that is probably the greatest gift that you can do to yourself. Now, I'm actually coming up with almost ready program to have people do that themselves, and I'd be happy to share it with everybody that send me an email and request it. I just ask that it's like a beta testing, that you don't share it with others. I'd be happy to talk to you briefly. It's actually self-explanatory. All you need is to read the thing, and all the exercises are on my website and on my book. Just have to get my book. There's one more resource. Study done. It's Core Living, C-O-R-E Living, LIVING.org. And when you open the website, the page, scroll down and you'll see CD1, CD2. Click on it, listen online, or just download it and listen later, MP3 file. And again, it gives you another wonderful tool. There's no better tool than others. You check them out and find out what you can relate to and feel comfortable, and just do it. The idea is that eventually, once you do this and you get to a space where you're more peaceful, loving, in the moment, you need to get attached yourself to blaming, to judging. The idea is to really not just do it when you do all the time. Take the exercises, some of them you can do on the go, you don't have to stop your daily life, like the art of soaring, or letting go of judgment, and effortless healing, being in the moment. Just that enough, if you do it consistently, you won't even need any boot camp. Your daily life will be a good camp. So that's another way. However, I think that many people, because we're so programmed and have so many challenges, that it's good to take a few days off, work like 6 hours a day, do the exercises, build yourself up, and then continue. So that's just suggestions. And that's really what I found over the years that I've been doing this kind of work. If you understand what I say and it resonates, all you really have to get out of your box. Your box is really a belief system, one way to look at it. And if you wake up, you want to keep your brain in good health, look at my video and look at Dr. Amen, you'll understand why you really don't want to ignore your body physically. So when you get out of the box, practically any solution to any problem already exists. You just have to get out of the box and just do it. That's all. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I read recently that Ram Dass, I had some notes. He said that it is very difficult, if not impossible, to really let go and trust God unless you have accepted your worth, your own. If you have self-worth issues, it's difficult to do that.
Okay, well, let me answer that. Nothing is difficult. Everything is a belief. Maybe it's different to what you programmed, but nothing. You see, the moment you use the word difficult, and those of you that have a chance to check for living and see how our thoughts cause that, everything is a belief, and you really have to watch what you say and what you think. So nothing is difficult. It's just different. My experience, what I've seen over the years, and what I realize is when you do relentless, you'll find out what's right. Nobody has to give you the truth. On some level, as the Bible says, cultures say, you're a spark of God. There is potential perfection in you that is literally unlimited. That's what Jesus said, you can be like me and even more. And it was the truth. Now, this, who you really are, is totally masked. You have to really watch what you believe and what the word that somebody uses and you accept. If you release enough negative belief, the truth will become clearer and clearer. You don't need any, that's my belief, necessarily, even though teachers and gurus can be helpful for a while, you have to find your own truth. And sometimes people with the best intention will give you limitation, then you depend on them. And they not do it intentionally they just, that's the way it is. Okay, because we all tend to do that. Even an advanced teacher, including myself, I might tell you something that intentionally that maybe is not for you as good. So you have to be really aware. And as far as I'm concerned, if you do what I suggested relentlessly, you don't need anybody to tell you anything, you'll find out. And let me give you a perspective that will make it clearer. When you're in your mother's womb, you have, let's say, 164, 128 cells. All the cells are totally identical, same DNA. Then all of a sudden, it starts to differentiate into this incredible body. And we know very well the DNA of the liver is not the DNA, exactly the DNA of the kidneys, because it creates different proteins and so on. So how come these cells, which are all the same, created, this incredible body, differentiated themselves? Is it just happened by accident? Somebody threw a coin? Of course not. There's no accident, even though they want you to believe so you be a victim. Okay, you have no control. That what it is, and actually proven scientifically, but Nobel Prize winners, I don't have time to get into that, who show that DNA can be created spontaneously in sealed glass water when there's no, just pure water. So there is a matrix, the Holy Spirit, the divine matrix, it doesn't matter. There's many names for that, religious and scientific, that directed the development of this wonderful baby. The problems start the stress of your mother that affects your development and all that gives you weaknesses or even defects. And then you were born to a victim belief system. So you start to accumulate, sometimes just because you have terrible parents, sometimes because you have good parents that don't really realize that they're working out of negative belief or victim belief system. And your brain starts to be wired for stress. And the rewiring for stress disconnects you from this matrix. This matrix, God, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter in your belief system, you can relate to whatever you believe, is there all the time. Now, babies are more connected, they're so innocent, they did not get rewired for victimhood. But eventually you disconnected with that. What I realized for the training I did, when you start moving the layer of negative beliefs, of just by deliberately, because remember, you have a free choice. Nobody put gun to your head to prevent you from doing it. And of course, if you're suffering in pain, wait, do something holistic, do something. Of course, in certain circumstances, people just it's too much for them and they cannot and they won't do it. And I don't judge them. But for the average person that is not like terminally dying or ill or whatever, nobody prevents you from using your brain. And as you peel the layer and rewire your brain properly, you automatically connected with the same divine metric, which is perfect. Okay, all this healing happened. And you find your truth. See, the perspective of the truth is different for everybody because we're all unique. Do you understand? So anyway, that's my answer. I hope it makes sense. Let me just open your mic.
This is Janie Hessler. That was a question. I listened carefully to your answer, and if I understand, then you are saying that the way to get to that self-worth that he says, unless you have that, you can't trust God, is that the more we intentionally attack or strip away all negative belief systems, then we automatically reveal God / our self-worth all being one. Is that right?
Exactly, because you see, the experience, you can go to a certain religion or other religion and get to God, and if you focus only on the positive in a religion. I had friends, Muslims, even though we hear a lot about Muslim, that were literally saints because they totally focus on the positive, totally ignore the other non-positive, called positive of the religion. So ultimately, you can get to go to religion, but ultimately be your unique experience. Okay, and if you go to somebody else that, unless he's Jesus, which I don't know anybody, they have their own limitation. And sometimes you go through them and not directly through your heart to God, you may buy their limitation. Do you understand? So the best is to work on yourself. Use whatever information in your church or religion or whatever philosophy that's helpful to you, but ultimately you will know. And the truth only comes out when you relentlessly do your own work.
Right.
Okay. It really doesn't matter. For me, you can get to God directly with or without religion, but it's really up to you. Okay? That answers you?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. My point is that any of the resources I gave you, you have to find out what you can relate to it. Hopefully, the ones that are free will be enough. But on my website, when you open my website, I think you can see it here, and you go on the tab of healing, you'll have the self-help project and effortless healing. That's a very, very powerful and simple tools that you can learn to use. And of course, the tools in my book. So you just pick and choose and just do it. Just and learn to be in this space. That's all it is. It's very, very simple. And the point is you just need to do it relentlessly. Don't make any judgment, keep open mind, and just do it and see what happens.
Yes, this sounds like something I've needed all my life, and I've been.
We all need it. We all need it because of the reason I explained. Unless you're ready, Jesus, you need it.
Thank you so much.
And my idea is this should be introduced to children. When occasionally I taught kids this kind of stuff, and they did it. It was miraculous. It was so simple, and they get it 100 times faster than we are. So if you teach it in school, you will have better society. Anybody else has any questions?
This is Linda. I had questions about Nutripuncture.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Explain Nutripuncture very, very briefly. It was developed by a medical doctor that realized years ago that medicine really doesn't do you that much good, and he studied Chinese medicine. He ran into research of famous scientists in France that worked before the Second World War, Kowalski, and he actually showed that if you put certain rings of metals around plants or even inject it to them, you cannot infect them with bacteria that will cause cancer. So they totally prevented cancer. So he actually became aware of this work, and he obviously being also Chinese medicine doctors aware of energy, he extrapolated and basically said, well, that's obviously an energetic effect on the plant, because if you educate yourself and you can see the videos on my website, everything is energy. That's the source of everything. So he actually worked in a medical school with the son of Lachovsky in Paris, for all places. And he, obviously, knowing energy, he figured out that you can take people to chew sugar-based tablet have very, very small amounts of different minerals with different quantities and ratios like magnesium, copper, zinc, and so forth. Again, not enough to be a replacement and not enough, not like homeopathy. So it has tiny, tiny amounts. And the different combination, you find out which meridians and organs they open energetically. Beautifully. I mean, I can tell you stories about it. Maybe I need to do a whole program on that, one of my webinars. It's very, very useful. So you can use it for acute things. And it's amazing. In children, immediately earache gets better. They, from being upset, not feeling good, they start laughing and playing. Again, children usually respond much faster for the reason I explained. You can use it in acute condition. It's totally harmless. There's really no contraindication. And you don't put needle in your body, which may be a downside. You just chew on tablets. You can use it to strengthen your body in a condition if you're chronic, acute for sure. You can, for example, jet lag very hard on your uterus or prostate and thalamus and your thyroid and so forth. So you can take to strengthen them and reduce the risk or the downside, the energetic effect of flying and jet lag and so forth. So you can use it for different purposes. You can even use it to improve your meridians, to perform better in exams, of being more balanced, and so forth and so on. What's even more remarkable is the fact that this Dr. Verret, his name, figure a way to create formulation where you take specific sequences in very precise order that address very specific issues like physical trauma. Everybody has surgery or car accident or trauma in their life. If you take an acute condition, you get better much faster. All the common traumas and a lot of things that you don't even aware, like your mother didn't breastfeed you, that's traumatic. You're adopted, that's traumatic. Somebody of your parents wasn't there, that's abandonment. Not to speak about many, many other things. So usually people know that when they have severe trauma, like as I say, sexual trauma, is very, very hard on the body and your mind and the rest of your life. You can alleviate, because basically all these different trauma create different type of energetic blockages that your body make up for them, but over many, many years, your body is so weak because of other issues that build up and ongoing stress in your life, and your body cannot take it anymore. And in fact, specific blockages can create specific issues. I'll give just an example because it's absolutely fascinating. What I learned doing that is, for example, if you have very, very hard life as a child, say your parents are violent. I mean, I see all kinds of unbelievable stories. Parents that are drunk and abusive and so forth. I mean, you survive it, but obviously it's very, very traumatic. So there's several possibilities you can react as a child. One of them we call eternal child. You just don't grow. You just stay a child and you don't integrate yourself. So those people that we call in Nutripuncture eternal child, it creates problem because you're a child. You don't integrate in your life. You're still acting energetically as a child, and obviously resolve the problem. But for example, as a child, you don't have boundaries. So this is the people that may, of course, not everybody has this pattern will become, but all pedophiles are eternal childs. And so it increases, absolutely doesn't mean that you will be a pedophile, but some people will, and those is a type, and you can help them with Nutripuncture. I don't know that you help them much with psychotherapy. They're known to be practically hopeless. So you can help to unblock the block and have the person continue to evolve from a child to a mature person who know who they are. I know that even with what I presented tonight, people can heal themselves. I believe anybody can heal themselves in principle for anything. I don't know if they'll take the time to do that, but that's an example. So what happened is that when you use Nutripuncture for major traumas, you really resolve a lot of energy blocks, and it affects you emotionally, mentally. Usually it's immediately. People can feel a shift immediately. We don't just guess that you need it. We test you and we can tell energetically, but once you take it within minutes, as soon as you finish, you already feel difference in your body, in your mind, and how you walk, how you talk, and so forth. So the sequential Nutripuncture that we do, and it's very, very useful because I don't know hardly anybody didn't have any trauma. And what I want to mention something, I'll give you more piece of information which is interesting. You see, to integrate as a healthy human being, you have to be recognized and allowed to be yourself. Now, parents, sometimes they're abusive, obviously don't let you be yourself, but even the best parents, they have their own belief system and they want you to do this or to learn this or to be like that because they believe it's for your highest good, out of love, not because they want harm. But it's not you, you're not your parents. And obviously they want you to be a certain way because of their own negative victim belief system with good intention, but they don't allow you to be yourself. So when you, and the other aspect of it is recognizing gender, male or female, which is another big issue, but I won't get into it right now. So when you don't know who you are, what's your boundaries, you're bound to be manipulated, to manipulate others, to create codependent relationship, and many decisions you're going to make in your life wouldn't be for your highest good, and you cannot see it because you're not yourself. When you're yourself, as I talked before, you know who you are, and life will be much easier and better. Unfortunately, very few, I mean, rarely this really happens. Of course, the problem is in all of us practically, unless your parents were a saint and you grew in a saintly society, because some of the stuff you get in school from teachers and so forth, or family. But really, all what I'm talking about tonight is about correcting that. So Nutripuncture is just a tool, but it facilitated. You just have to deal with what you've chosen to come to Earth, to deal with all this interesting stuff that's happening, but there are solutions, and that's really the key to finding out. That answers your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Have a
Talmor.
great evening. You're very welcome. Good night,
Thank you
everybody.
thank you very much, Dr. Talmor. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Talmor. Good night.
You're very welcome. Bye.